You're listening to Sound Opinions. I'm Greg Cott with Jim DeRogatis, and we are here with Killer Mike and LP, otherwise known as Run the Jewels. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
We're here at the Barrel House in Chicago, taping this interview right now. And it all starts in 2012 with you guys. Both of you making solo records that year. You had known of each other, but had not worked with each other prior to that point. Mike, how did it start that you got L on your record that year?
Jason DeMarco is a mutual friend of both of ours, and he's a pretty powerful guy in TV. And, you know, when you have a powerful friend, sometimes they can do cool things, and he's done a lot of cool things. He's given L like bumps and stuff in terms of having music played. He'd use me for records, and somehow he had got in his mind that, you know, he wanted me to make a record over there, and he wanted me to make the record that he always felt like I should have and could have made away from the majors, and that was a record where you just could say anything and everything you thought and wanted, and that just had become a rarity in rap, period. So the plan was to get in with some high-profile producers that I liked, that their sound, some producers he suggested, some that I knew of, and L was the first guy we got in the studio with. He was like, he had me listen. I was familiar with L's work in the Perithia, but he had me listen to a Jeezy remix that L did. And I was like, this is nasty. And you know what I mean? My question was like, why didn't Jeezy go do a whole album with the guy? You know what I mean? So I got in the studio with L, man, and like fell in love within the first 2 hours, fell in love with the tracks, our conversation. We were the same age. We had very, you know, similar opinions on stuff, and the stuff we differed on, it was a cool argument, if nothing else. And I remember leaving the studio that day calling Jay like he has to do the whole album. And Jay was like, I agree, you know. And I just started bombarding L with phone calls.
I said absolutely not. Nope.
And L was like, no. Absolutely. I have an album to finish. I like you a lot, kid. Get away from me. You know.
But before we get away from TV, because I know that Cott is not hip to this, but the first track was for the Aqua Teen Hunger Force show. Is that right?
Well, no, I was a voice on Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and that was the one I did. I did something for Jason on that, and I was a voice on a show called Frisky Dingo. The guys who currently do Archer are the guys who did that. I was a voice of Taquil on that, and I just done other stuff. I was the promotional voice for Boondocks and whatnot. But this, you know, getting an opportunity to do a record with William Streets, you know, a lot of people say want to change the course of their career. I didn't really like where my career was going. I liked the records I was made, but it put my career on the trajectory that I thought it should be going. I just wanted to be a rapper so I could say whatever I wanted to say. I could say whatever I thought my thoughts about the world were over the dopest beats possible, and getting introduced to L made that happen.
Well, what's interesting to me about that year, because rap music was one of the best albums of that year.
I think the best.
It was an incredible record. And
He put out a
and
record.
you had a little contention. What I was going to say is that L made a great record too, Cancer for Cure, that year as well.
Absolutely.
That was my choice for best record of the year, and you went with his, but we split it down the
We're not mad at that. We can live with that.
You had, in some ways, your solo careers were never in a better place as a result of just the attention you were getting.
Yeah.
So, L, what was it about, you know, the collaboration here that made you think, okay, I'm going to set what I'm doing as a solo artist aside to work with this guy in what became Run the Jewels?
Well, I mean, you know, when we met, we were both kind of at a crossroads to some degree. We hadn't put out any material in a while, and we were both sort of newly, I think, determined to make some, you know, to do some good work. And yeah, like you said, you know, both those albums, those solo albums, kind of did bring us back into sort of on a path, and they were both really successful, and that's why Run the Jewels happened, is because we were sort of riding high off of that. We were touring together, and we had just worked on 2 records together essentially, and
became friends.
And we were on the road, and none of this was planned. Basically, the answer is that none of it was planned. We didn't really make a decision to set anything aside. We've just kind of been going with our guts ever since we met, really. I mean, even me saying yes to him 100% was against what I thought that I was going to do. And he broke me down. The cuddly bastard broke me down. And you know, I'm really glad he did, because we ended up just, you know, that kind of started a path, I think, for both me and Mike of just letting things unfold. And we just kept our sort of minds open. And so when it came time for the Run the Jewels project, that wasn't even Run the Jewels until sort of midway through the project. Originally that was just going to be a solo LP thing that I was going to try and release. I had made a lot of the music beforehand, and I was getting ready to go in and do some sort of EP or something that I would release between records, because I had this history of releasing records like every 5 years, and when you're like 35, you start to realize that maybe you should speed it up a little bit. So I wanted to work, and Mike wanted to work, and we were touring together, and the vibe was so good, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'll join you on the EP if you want. I'll be on be on a song, be on a couple of songs." And we got into the studio, and it turned out that he was on every song, and sort of midway through that, we were like, "Okay, I guess this is a group EP," and then a couple of friends of ours, Jason DeMarco, and like friends of mine, like Little Shalimar, who also produces on the record, we're just like, you guys would be crazy if you don't keep going, if you don't make this a record. So we did. And literally, though, there's no plan. I don't think me and Mike look at it right now like we're putting our solo careers aside at all. We're still very active in making and writing music, and there will be stuff that comes out. But we just kind of recognized that there was some magic there, and that it was worth sort of. We looked at each other after about a year of touring the Run the Jewels record and saw the reaction with people listening to it, and the shows and the energy, and we were having a lot of fun, and it was successful. And we kind of looked at each other like, "Is this? Do you want to do it again?"
Yeah.
There was no. I don't think that we look at it like we're putting anything aside. That stuff is going to be done too. I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to be working with Mike probably for about 10 years.
He says, unfortunately, Mike, but he called you a cuddly bastard. And I read a great quote that El had and said, "You don't think at 35 that you're going to meet your best friend for life."
You don't.
And he feels like he did. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, we're just, we tell each other we love each other, and we argue every day. If we were gay, we'd be married.
Or divorcing.
You have a wife.
That's going to be
I
the
do,
pull
I have
quote,
a
right?
wife, but she always says that. She always says that. I joke and kid with her all the time because she doesn't get up very early since she's from here. I'm like, "You need a wife from 6 in the morning to noon. We need a second wife." She's like, "You're already married. You and Ella."
There's no way I'm escaping this interview with my pride intact. Is there?
I'll be the wife. I'll let you earn the dough. I'll be a tradition. I'll cook for you. Wash your back.
Do you cut his hair?
I will. I own a barbershop, so my goal is to get good enough to give him a hipster cut. But I just say that because I truly meet soulmates in life. You meet people who you're bound to be with. I'll probably end up telling a story about a lady named Alice Johnson later, who's from Chicago, who affected about a lot of stuff I rap about. But El is one of those people in my life. When I met him, I knew that I was supposed to know this person. I knew that I had things to learn. I knew I had things to share. And I knew that whatever energy we created on music together was special. Like, I knew I could rap good. I knew I'd worked with great producers before, but that's not the same thing as special. LP puts on beats, and I walk around a room with a joint in my mouth mumbling, and the product of that are records like Untitled. There are records like Willie Burke Sherwood. They're some of the most thoughtful and thought-provoking records I've ever made, and that people have ever been affected by me. So, with saying that, I am honored to say this is my friend. You know what I mean? Yeah. I really am happy that serendipity brought me to a point where I was open for friendship. Because after Pledge 3, Elle and I talked about this. At some point in our solo careers, we just pushed everybody away. Like, I made Pledge 3 totally by myself. It was the last album for rap music. I wouldn't let anybody in the studio. I wouldn't see anybody. Elle and I had found each other in a place where we pretty much separated ourselves from everybody we were known for being around. So I'm just thankful that the universe brought us together, because if not, I wouldn't be sharing these moments with thousands of people. Because as a kid, that's all I ever wanted to do. I didn't know you made money and paid a mortgage with rap. I just thought you made thousands of people happy, like the groups I was watching did for me.
You're listening to Sound Opinions. We're talking to Run the Jewels, LP, and Killer Mike, live here at the Goose Island Barrel House, surrounded by Tasty Brews. But it's really early on a Sunday morning.
Can I have one, please?
Let's just get a claw hammer and take it to one of those barrels there. We have a shower of beer. So I heard that when the festival gigs started rolling in, you've been playing to tens of thousands, huge crowds.
Yeah.
You know, at first you guys would come out and do, L, you'd do a little bit of your set, Mike, you'd do a little of your set, and then there was the Run the Jewels set, and you began to realize there are people who don't care who L is and who Mike is. They like this partnership.
Those were mostly the club shows because, you know, we were headlining tour and we went out with the Run the Jewels record and we just assumed that we had to do solo sets. You know, we just did. Mike would do a half an hour, I'd do a half an hour, and then we'd do the, Run the Jewels thing. And, you know, probably about 4 shows in, I think originally we were like doing 45 minutes each. 4 shows in, it was half an hour each. And then
You forgot, we start asking ourselves, who were these weird kids that weren't moving? There'd be kids that
they were there for our material, you know, they were polite about it.
Yeah, but it was just kind of like,
It was like the warm-up act.
Okay, that is nice, old man.
Bring out Run the
I
Jewels.
appreciate that record from 2003.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it literally got to the point where we felt weird, and then we play Run the Jewels, and these kids would go bat crazy. Just
almost as if they didn't know that we were the same people that were just on stage.
Who was this opening act?
Yeah. Like, we literally were just in front of you for a half an hour.
You know what it is? I think a lot of it is like the buddy cop movie that they never had.
Right.
You know, it's a younger audience, but it's like a throwback to like these 80s groups where you had EMD or Run DMC throwing the ball back and forth, and two guys just having more fun than any one person could possibly have on stage. And that seemed like a definite throwback to what you guys grew up with.
For sure.
As
Feels
kids.
good. And we talked about that. I mean, that was our inspiration. And just as much as, just as much as anything, I think that fun that happens when we're sort of together creatively was the refreshing thing for us. That was the reason why we were like, let's just do this. It wasn't, it was all feeling, there was no plan. Like, we just didn't really plot it out. And yeah, that's exactly, and we talk about it like we do think like, that energy, like the 48 Hours, Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy energy, where like that we grew up with in the 80s, where they just like mastered that movie, there were a bunch of those movies, but that's something, and I don't really think that that's really translated into subsequent generations as well.
No.
Yeah. But
narcissism rules now.
Yeah, it's
But it's fun when they see it, because they're not used to that kind of thing. It's like, wow, this is a lot of fun.
I think people respond to genuine energy. I think people respond to, like when we and Mike are on stage, man, we are genuinely giddy about it because it's such a release and we enjoy doing the music so much. I think people respond to that. I think they can tell that, and it's created a different type of energy. When we do our solo stuff, it can be more intense. It's we have our own arc creatively with the solo stuff that we've been working on for years. So Run the Jewels is sort of this new child that we're raising, and we don't know what direction it's going, but it's a different thing, and I think that's good because when we get back to what we do solo-wise, we've found this other sort of outlet for a different type of record,
Right.
And the solo stuff is dope. Solo shows are dope.
Oh, yeah. Well, the fun is palpable. But for people who don't know the music, there's a lot of anger on this record, too.
Absolutely.
Just as there was
I would say outrage.
Anger is fun.
Yeah. Well, you guys have in your target something you call, for truncating on public radio purposes, the F-boys. Yeah. Right? I think if it was 68 in Chicago, we would say you guys are against the man. Yeah. What are you talking about when you have those people in your sights?
Well, the F-boys is it's a term. It's everywhere, but it's just a term when I was coming up as a kid, just for the kid that was just a sucker. He was just like, if you guys plotted to cheat on the test, he was the one that was going to snitch to the teacher. You know what I mean? If you got away with not going to church, he was going to tell you weren't in Sunday school. It was just like, dude, like, why do you? And a lot of times he was in your circle.
One day someone's going to come up with a name for you.
Yeah, just like, man. And it was just like, that was the name when I was a kid. Like, he's an F-boy. Like, and he's still in your neighborhood. It's not like you hate him, but just like, you're going to do something dumb. You're going to fight in the front row one
gonna
show.
grow into power.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a political edge because in
Yeah,
the video,
but-
in the video, you guys are paramedics. And you're kind of stoner paramedics, a little, the heck with buddy cop movies. It's sort of like on the road movies with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. These guys driving an ambulance, right? And then at the end, you're eating your breakfast in a diner, and there's a guy who looks like he's a Republican National Committee spokesperson who has a heart attack, and you're like, I ain't bothering.
Hours were over, man. We were on our break. Yeah, but the whole F-boy thing, that's what we're calling it, right?
Yeah.
They
For lack of a better, yeah.
it translates to a bigger, socio-political perspective, because really I think when we use it in that term, it's I think that Run the Jewels, if anything, if we have a stance on the record that I've listened to it, it's like if we're saying anything, I think we're sort of, the enemy is hypocrisy to a degree, and it just feels like that's really where our heads were at, and all of the sort of amalgamations and sort of composites of people that we all put under the umbrella of F-boy,
They're fit.
political or whatnot, or just personal. But when it goes to the political realm, and I listen to this record, I think that we really are. There's something that me and Mike connect in our repulsion of hypocrisy, and I think that that's really, that's the enemy, I think, to a degree. And because we don't want to be hypocrites, and because we feel that we're not, we also let ourselves be ridiculous, and we let ourselves be obviously lying, and the point is for these records, everyone is in on the joke. We're not pulling the wool over your eyes. You're not the joke. The listener's not the joke.
Right.
We're all the joke, kind of.
Yeah, it's interesting. It almost gave you permission to have this kind of holiday, because I think both of you guys had this very serious reputation. You guys made serious records that were attacking a lot of levels of hypocrisy in our society and our government, in your neighborhood. You talk about drones over Brooklyn. I mean, it's like you don't have to go overseas to see that kind of surveillance. You can come right to my neighborhood. Yeah.
And a
see
year
the same
later,
kind of
there were
thing.
drones over Brooklyn.
Yeah, and there you go. But now this Run the Jewels thing, the humor has sort of taken it a life of its own. I mean, I haven't heard that term. It's a street slang that last was around the late 80s, early 90s. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to hear the guys on ESPN using it when they're describing an interception or a fumble.
Yeah, right.
And I know that those guys are closet Run the Jewels fans. They're listening to your record. Yeah. But explain the origin of that term, because I think it explains a lot about where you guys are coming from as a duo.
Well, the origin of the term is just this, like you said, it's street slang. It's something that was around and that popped up in rap songs. I learned it from rap songs. And I learned it, I was a kid in the 80s in New York City, but that was a popular term if you heard Run the Jewels and you were getting robbed at gunpoint. And I remember listening, I always loved that line at the end of the LL Cool J song, Cheesy Rap Blues, where he's talking about how the whole song is about how he lost everything. It was this sort of fictional tale of him losing everything and, and getting desperate. And at the end, he goes, throw your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care. Keep them there, Run the Jewels. And I just love that as a concept. And I kind of feel like that really is what our group is, in a sense. It's, and Run the Jewels, so I ran it by Mike. Mike liked it, and we kind of, it was something maybe I was going to name an album. I didn't know, but I had it in my head, probably since I heard, from the 80s I had it in my head. And then, it's sort of grown in concept, and that's the thing I like about it. It's like the Run the Jewels, as we defined it, has just grown in the hands of everybody else, and in the hands of the people that have listened to it, and we're always amazed at how kids are defining Run the Jewels now for themselves and making it even bigger than we could have imagined conceptually. And then, relating the name back, and it starts to feel like what we're saying is, we're taking this life, that's sort of what we're saying, I think. And I don't want to get too deep because we're also talking about shooting poodles, but to some degree, really, that's what it's turned into us. Like a statement and a purposeful statement of intent. Like Run the Jewels. Like we're taking it, everything from our pride to our truth to our mistakes to our world. And I like the fact that we can give that attitude to someone. Like hopefully there's some kid. I learned my attitude in a large part to rap music, you know? And I like that. I like the fact that me and Mike can give something that's not unattainable, you know? Like, the only thing that makes us special is that we have an attitude, as opposed to us having, you know, money or having, you know, success or whatever that people put out there. A lot of, I'm not gonna ramble too much more, but a lot of rappers I feel like are just kind of standing there for you to witness. And that's one way to do things, you know, but it's a disconnected way, and I think that we're presenting something that's like this for you to be a part of. I hope anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely, comes across. So, Mike, I got to ask you, the transformation, that the first record was almost like a holiday, I thought, for you guys. This second record, much more intense in terms of just getting deeper into stuff, the way I think you guys do individually.
Yeah.
What made that transition from, hey, we're just kind of doing this, you know, fun buddy cop movie on the first record, and now we're doing something a little more serious on the second record? What accounts for that transformation?
Well, there's a few things. I think that you know, once we realize, okay, we are a real group, then the real pressure is on. When it's a one-off thing that we're doing, you know, the first almost was an homage to the rap group. So we set our rules. We're going to be a real group. It's going to be like an EPMD. The music is going to be a quality. It's not just going to be single bass. It's going to make a whole thing. You know, we held up to the first group classic record standards. And then when you become a real group, you're like, oh my God, this is the pressure that real groups face. And that's making sure your next record is better than your first. And because your second record is honestly what defines you. And we could have rested on our laurels and been defined by a almost vacation away or a ultra ridiculous version of what this still is, or we could pick up where we left off with A Christmas Effing Miracle, and we could go deeper into secondary and tertiary meanings. We challenged ourselves. We sat there and said, we know we have to do more. We have to bring some of what we are as human beings from our solo records into this. And it started off kind of rocky because we wanted, I think, just to get straight to it. And we started off building almost the records that felt like an extension of what the first record was. They were brawny, they were brolicky, they were mean, they were funny, they were outrageous, pugnacious, but they didn't lock in. And we really fought hard to make sure, because there were times in this record we could have just said, all right, the stuff we got is jamming, is dope, we can just do this as a part two, people are gonna love it anyway because we can get out and tour. But I would say when we started making a record like Early had a whole different beat at first. But when we dropped Early and L brought it back with the flipped beat, I still wasn't sure how I liked it. Then I heard Boots, it's like, oh, wow, okay. Then I sat myself and just started letting myself feel the record and was like, oh, we're doing it. When we did Crown, for instance, that record happened at 3 in the morning. It was a freestyle. It was cold. I was angry because I was cold. I was mad. And that record just poured out of me. Then it took like
I hear
month.
you really didn't like. L's idea was we're going to go to the upstate New York, and we're going to be surrounded by nothing. Yeah. And you were like, where's the weed? Where's the stripper? Where's the bar?
Just straight up. Straight up.
I've been to upstate New York. Buffalo today?
Exactly.
No good, man.
Exactly. I'm like, man,
I was
the
born
only
there,
time
so I know what you're talking about.
really, besides making music with L, the only time I want to be in a mountain with a group of men is if we're hunting and killing and eating things or fishing. I don't want to just be here, bruh. Like, so I fought through that, and it was like the records start coming together. And I just got to say, like, I've been angry on records before about stuff. Reagan is people call one of my greatest records, and it was just a visceral, personal, angry record about what the Reagan era, how it affected me. But I had never allowed myself to fully show the type of empathy and compassion I have. And that was something I realized that I had hid in that hip-hop veneer. Like in the 80s and 90s, you had to be tough. Like to wear Jordans, to wear the shoes I'm wearing last night at the show, you had to risk being on a train, someone saying, what shoe size are you? If you were stupid enough to say it, they were gonna say, run it. You know what I mean? So I had built a career off being the tough, angry guy, and these records allowed me to show where that anger comes from. It comes from empathy. It comes from compassion. It comes from sympathy. It comes from care and concern. And these were the records. When those records started happening, it was just like, this is magic. I know we're going to top it, but I didn't know it was going to be this good.
Yeah. Well, and you never get too far away from the goofiness that runs through both of your friendships, right? I gotta ask about Meow the Jewels because this story is just insane. So how did this start?
I got really, 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 really high.
Yep.
And I was sitting at my kitchen table, and we were putting together the record pre-order packages, and giving away the record for free, but we're also offering it in a bunch of different formats and through the website, and I just was bored and high, and I decided, and when I was looking over these sort of boring, droll, and if you got a sticker and a CD, and it was cool. You have to do that, but I was just so bored, and I really, after 10 years of running a record label, if I never have to read another, I can't curse here, can I?
Another one sheet or a press
another
release.
one sheet, yeah. I will roll the one sheet up and stab my eyeball with it, but I was just bored, and I was like, why don't we write out a couple more here? And so I ended up writing out all these just really ridiculous options, like the F-Boy revenge package, where for $100,000 we'd come to your town and take revenge on take
The
revenge
boss of
on
your
somebody
choice, yes.
and train his pet to love you, and with I think the mystery time package, where we'd start a detective agency with you and we'd solve local mysteries. I just it was like, hey, if you're gonna, maybe someone will spend $100,000 to do that, everybody wins, and one of them was Meow the Jewels, and that was for 40 grand. And I regret making it so low. For 40 grand, we will remix Run the Jewels 2 using nothing but cat sounds for music. Seemed simple enough. But it didn't seem like, out of all of I thought someone might take the Gordon Ramsay package personally. That was where we, I forget how much it was for, but where we will go to a restaurant of your choice and try and force them to change their menu, and we'd actually try and we'd recreate an episode of Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay, with me and Mike playing Gordon Ramsay simultaneously, and we just abuse a restaurant until they change their menu. But so anyway, long story short, we did that. We sent it out, and I forgot. It was like, it just didn't dawn on me, like, cats and the internet are basically, like, the internet is powered by cats, essentially.
Right.
So someone sort of took us up on the joke, I think, and it was their it was their response, and I don't think he was particularly serious about it either. But he did a Kickstarter for Meow the Jewels.
And it met the goal.
Yeah, Sly Jones.
Yeah, what happened was, basically he did it, and it started to get some attention, and I was a little bit not cool with it at first because I didn't want anybody wasting their time and their money on something that was a joke, and also So I contacted the guy, and he was a good kid, and he said, I would like to dedicate some of the profit to victims of police brutality. He's a good kid from Phoenix. His parents are interracial, and he's got strong feelings about it. And I just said, well, how about we just do the whole thing like that? If we're gonna do this, I'll get behind it. If this is for charity, if this is all going to go to victims of police brutality.
But now you're going to make a whole album with cat noises.
Right.
Which made me think, the serious side of this is,
Right.
I think, Elle, since you arrived on the scene, I think there's two towering giants in production work in general. Is you and the Aphex Twin.
Wow.
And the Aphex
Thank you.
Twin used to make entire tracks out of just a Coke can. A
Right.
pencil and a Coke can,
Yeah.
right? But now you got this, so you got to deliver now.
There's so many different ways you can, like, shake a cat,
And should be pointed out that you are a cat person, right? There's dog people, and you're a cat guy.
I've been owned by a cat. in
Mike's
my
kind
life.
of
Yes.
squinting over there.
Your dog guy, Matt?
I put it to you this way. I put my cat down this year. I have not run out to get another cat. This is like a complicated relationship.
It is, yeah. Cats
Like,
are
I miss-
deep in that way.
I miss my cat, but
Yeah.
I like being free too. Yeah, I got behind it, and we all got behind it, and we started putting our weight behind it a little bit, and it took off. And once we got people like, Just Blaze and, Prince Paul and all these other producers who are friends who I just reached out to, and they were like, yeah, we'll make, I love the fact that I'm maybe assembling one of the greatest produced records, like the best, like really the cream of the crop.
Some of the best producers
Some of the best
in hip-hop
producers
history.
in hip-hop alive today, and they're only going to be making music out of cat sounds.
Some people would say, what an incredible waste, and you may say this is the highest form of
This is
human
absolutely
communication
the
ever.
best
Yeah.
record ever going to
Ever
be made.
made.
Yeah, no, it's not a waste.
We're sort of, we started here, guys, and I really want to kind of bring it back to the fact that Run the Jewels has taken on a life of its own. Run the Jewels 2 bum rushed the Billboard charts. I mean, you guys got on the Billboard charts. You basically, Al, I remember talking to you when you first started out in New York, and you're basically saying hip-hop is the language, the music made out of poverty when you have no money. And, you guys have conducted your careers in much the same way, maybe not necessarily voluntarily, but you have been epitomized what underground hip-hop, DIY hip-hop has been for a decade plus. And now you are seeing, sold-out shows. You played 2 sold-out shows last night in Chicago, which I think between the two of you has not happened before individually.
Nah.
And everywhere in the country, selling out these theaters, selling out these clubs.
That's not cool.
Drones over Goose Island.
Yeah, right. Are we okay with it, engineers? Or no,
Oh.
we're not. Okay. Let me just.
Forklift guys don't care about interviews, bro.
Yeah.
They got beer to mix.
Yeah.
The business model. Is there a business model, and is there something that, because I think a lot of young artists are looking at this and going, look at these guys did it exactly on their own terms. What are the keys to doing that?
Well, I mean, when
We don't really answer the business question, but you guys are such a respectable show. We're going to just say this. Our business model is we put the records together ourselves. We sacrifice the profits of L doesn't buy a Rolex or a Ferrari. I don't put my kids in the best private schools. They go to good public schools. We take that money, we make a record, and then we go and partner with a company who is willing to invest with us and further express. We own all our masters. We keep the masters. Run the Jewels is owned solely by LP and Killer Mike.
And that's
Not for everybody, but that was what works for us.
one thing that's been weird for us is answering this question because people want to know if what we're doing applies, to other people. And I would say that in some ways it could, in the model of basically putting the record out for free and doing high-end, physical product. That's not really what you're talking about. What you're talking about, I think, is something else. I mean, the fact is that we've had careers, we've released records for, steadily for, a couple of decades now, essentially. Not quite as long, but so our situation is a little unique. I think it just kind of snowballed, and we've always had good careers. Like, we've always been making, dough, and like we've always had our lane. Our lane was maybe more humble than other people's lanes, but
Right.
it was a successful one, and individually we both were successful and continue to be with our music. But yeah, Run the Jewels is definitely a different situation. And again, we didn't overthink it. Like, we really didn't overthink it. The first one, we just decided that we wanted to put it out for free because it felt right. We had a great run with our solo records. We were feeling pretty appreciative of, and we kind of thought it would be cool to drop something, because I had never done that. Mike maybe you had done that a little bit, but I had never done like a free album, I had never done that. You've done mixtapes.
I did a couple
Yeah.
of mixtapes. I don't like them. I always was about selling product. I'd rather sell 1,000 real products than give away. My philosophy was that if I sell 10,000 pledges, I don't need to worry about the rest of the year. So yeah, it was a different philosophy for me too to give away music.
But
Well,
at the,
the thing seems to be that there's still so many people in hip hop and in music in general
Yeah.
who have this attitude that somebody is going to make me a star.
Yeah.
Right. And what I love about your careers, together and apart, is, you had your taste of that, what you've called, I think, the vacuous big time, and you've decided nobody's going to make me anything. I'm going to make it myself.
Yeah.
I never had any, but one thing is for sure, that in my career personally, nobody ever sort of did the reach down and bring you up a level thing. And it wasn't because I don't think I even thought that was. Never even thought it was an option. Never looked for it. I was pretty much trying to do my own thing from the moment that I stepped into this industry, and that's how I've been in this industry the whole time. I've really always done it that way, and to some degree, maybe that makes it harder. I think it's harder to rely on dumb luck than it is to rely on some intelligent moves and some hard work and putting the best music out that you possibly can, and when we got to the point where we were doing our thing, I think that kind of all bets were off, in a natural way, in the sense that we had all seen the music industry, it had been changing. I ran a record label for 10 years and it was based on a traditional model and it failed miserably, just like the traditional model dictates it would. And, by the time we got to Run the Jewels, I think that we had gone through at least a lot of the philosophical growing pains. It wasn't the new idea wasn't, oh my God, how do we make money in an age where music is being bootlegged online for free or whatever. For me, my thought about the whole thing was, it's more demeaning to me to pretend that the music isn't in your hands already. Like, hey guys, are you ready for the street date? Wink, wink. I know you've had it for 3 months. But everybody, please rush to the store on this day because that's important to our business model. And I just thought, well, why don't we just control that moment? Why don't we just make it and have it be ours? We want to give the gifts to the kid on Christmas. We don't want him to run down and open it up before we're awake. And so that's what we did. So I don't know what it means. I don't know, but I do know that we feel really good about the way that we've been able to operate, and it gives you more options. And I think that the way that it should be. And I always imagined that eventually you could make music and get really right to the fan. And cut out some of the old thing. And I just didn't have the vision, or I didn't even comprehend that it would be the way it looks now. And I think it took this long for people to kind of get over some of the ideas. And now we're sort of in a place where people like me and Mike are releasing legitimate records that, like you said, are dropping on Billboard. And we gave it away for free.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know too, it is about the relationship with the fans.
Yeah.
I think that the silent agreement that happened with the first free release and this one was, we're going to give it to you for free. If you like it and you really believe in it, buy it. If you love it and you really believe in it, buy some more exclusive stuff. If you really, really love it, come out to the shows. We saw the record sell well. We saw stuff getting sold off the internet store as well. And we were like, oh man, thanks, you guys really kind of held up your end of this silent agreement. What we didn't expect was the sold out shows to this degree. The last time we were happy to get a sold out show, and it's almost become part of the course now. Not that we don't appreciate it or aren't happy, just they overabundantly showed us how the agreement is. We've had some merchandise nights where stuff just ran out. We were happy to go home with just a little last time. We're not going home with merch. So I just like to appreciate the audience in this business model, or I just call it a relationship.
Yeah.
They show us, they appreciate us by saying, we're going to support cool stuff that you do. We're going to come to the shows. That allows us to continue doing it.
And our free record to you is our contribution to the relationship.
Absolutely.
It's basically us just saying, look, we want to do this.
Absolutely.
We'd like you to be around. We'd like to
Absolutely.
do this, and let's and so I just thought it seemed like the most genuine thing. A lot of people, sort of bitch a little bit about the relationship between what the people who buy the music and the people who are making the music now. And they sort of resent, their fans for being the way that they are, for having the habits that they have, or not having the habits that that you had 10 years ago. Instead of just acknowledging that there's something going on here, and I think giving a little bit of being a little bit romantic about it, and giving up something. For us, giving the music away was like, this is it. This is all I can think of to tell you. This is the biggest gesture I can make to tell you, I want you to be a part of this music. I want you to hear this music. I want to do shows. I want to have this, engagement with you. I want to do it for as long as I can because I love making music. And so
I think if you break down the formula, it's like if you give your fans, the relationship is direct, artist to
Absolutely.
fan, and if you give them something good, treat them with respect, give
Absolutely.
them something good.
Exactly.
They understand that there's a quid pro quo there. It's
Absolutely.
like, give it back.
Right. People ask me a bunch of times, and I hate to even do this. I'm bringing them up because I don't feel the same resentment that other people did about this. But people asked us in the light of our record coming out about what we thought about the U2 thing, the debacle. And because it was weird, because it was like U2 put the record out for free, and everyone was like, "You're the devil," and we put it out, and it was like, "Oh, cool, thanks for the record."
But see,
And,
theirs sucked.
That's you're I'm going to allow
We're
you
two
to be
rock
more
critics,
qualified.
brother,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
You're
Hey,
the
man, you
critic.
guys are gangster,
You're
man.
gangsters.
It's not a
Gangster
present if
critic.
you give
You
some.
guys are actually
I have to
like
be
me
much
and
more
Elle.
cool about it. I have to
You
be much
open it
more
up
cool.
and it's-
But my metaphor to explain that phenomenon is like, look, man, if you break into my home and leave a gift on a fucking kitchen table,
You cursed.
I'm gonna be mad they'll edit it. I'm gonna be mad that you broke the window, not say thank you for the nice gift, And I think it's like it's them taking a stab sort of at their version of trying to, see what the new thing in the interaction is. And I think honestly, at the end of the day, they overthought it. It's just about your connection with the fans. It's about a genuine thing. And so that's the way that we try and do it, and it's really worked. It worked after the first one, and we were like, "There's no way we can charge now. Like we can't, you like that one? That's what drug dealers do. That's not.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't see how U2 gets back to charging ever again either.
Bono's gonna
Again.
kick your butt, bruh.
He's this big. You ever meet him?
He knows
He's this
karate.
big.
But he's a god.
And he just fell off his bicycle and hurt himself.
Oh
you know?
man, did he have on those hideous shades he
This
wears?
is terrible.
I think so.
Those like blue blockers with the serpents
I
on
still
the side.
like you, Bono.
He's an F-boy. I'm telling you. He's an F-boy.
God bless him. Yo, my
Wow.
dad's gonna straight hate
Bono,
on me
get
for
at
hating
me.
on his man.
In bed with Live Nation, $350 for the bleacher seats. Come on.
Well,
You're listening to Sound Opinions. I'm Greg Codd with Jim DeRogatis. We are here at the Goose Island Barrel House with
Yep.
Run the Jewels. All right, last thing. Desert Island Jukebox kind of thing, game. We play. Bring one record with you today to the Desert Island. It doesn't have to be an all-timer, but for today, Mike, what would you bring? And then I'm going to ask Al, same thing.
For today, what would I bring?
Yeah.
I'd bring Run the Jewels too.
No, you can't name your own record.
If you're gonna,
Got to be some other
had-
artist's record. Yeah,
I,
an influence or something that you're hot on today. Or
Sunday morning, it'd definitely be Al Green. It'd be a mixtape, half gospel, half soul. God Bless This Love would be the first and last song.
So we'll get to church after all.
Absolutely.
a Reverend Al Green. Can't
The
go wrong with
Reverend.
that. Did you listen to him when you were a kid?
I've listened to Al Green since I was in my mother's stomach when she was 16 years old.
Well, there you go.
My wife and I have a plan on this spring going to Memphis just to go to his church.
You've been there.
Yeah, he gives. He used to do 3-hour services where
par
he
for
was
the course
singing
the black
most of the.
community. Yeah,
most
I
of
went
the
to some
service.
8-hour services
Yeah.
at holiness churches.
Yeah.
Great bands.
Yeah, there you go, man. You don't do it like that. They do it in the South, man. It's
Yeah,
totally
God
different.
bless us.
God bless you. Al, what about you?
I'm gonna have to go with Purple Rain.
Whoa! All right.
I'm gonna have to go with that, the little guy, the little purple guy.
Yeah.
With the afro.
What was it about that record?
I mean, that was just like my childhood record. If I would have to say that there's for me growing up as a kid, that was one of the perfect records that made me want to be a musician and made me want to be an adult. Yeah. And it was just like this mind-blowing, mysterious little imp, like that was just like, oh my God, he's just,
Yeah.
what is he saying? It's amazing.
You still feel that way about the record? Can you put it on now and get the same charge out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I listen to the record all the time. It stays on my iPod. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, there may be other records that get more run from me these days, but if I had to distill it down to just sort of like one that meant something to me, Purple Rain would have to be it.
Not a bad choice. Very good.
You've been listening to Greg and I interview Run the Jewels, Killer Mike LP here at the Goose Island Barrel House. Guys, thanks so much for coming on
Thank
the
you.
show.
Thanks for having us, man.
Now the real work starts.
Now,
right.
and now you got to play.
Let's do it.
Thank you.